All right. What up? We just finished recording episode 88 with Andy Welch. Jake and I were so happy to spend an hour with Andy, and hopefully you'll see why. Just such a good dude. And he's been, Jake calls him one of the OGs. He's been part of me Duole for a really long time. Me and Andy share a few stories that, go back almost 10, 12 years for races and rides and how we got to know each other. He's done everything. He's supported my wife, Kristen, at Lodija. He's done Lodija multiple times, Rockwell Relay, East Canyon Road Race. He is a huge part of this team. We're not only thankful for his example, but thankful for Andy showing up. Andy's always the first one to ask what he can do to help with kit pickup. Whenever we're doing kit pickup, Andy's there setting up, and you don't really notice. But, man, he's a giver, a real servant to the team and everybody on it. And hopefully you'll learn a bit from him, his wisdom, and everything he's experienced over the years. So love Andy, grateful for him as a neighbor, as a friend, and obviously a member of this team. So enjoy this podcast. We've got kits order that is closed, and they're on their way. We'll schedule a kit pickup soon. We also have the 40th anniversary kit that we have designed and will release soon. That is a specialty kit coming up for 2024. It's not going to replace our normal team kits. This is just something fun that we've designed to commemorate 40 years as the oldest cycling team in Utah. A lot of fun. We have a few that are on order, so we'll do some modeling and show everybody what they look like. A bit of a throwback to the 1984 team and the kits that they used to wear, some of the first kits that the team ever wore. So that's kind of where we got our inspiration and where these kits are coming from. Bit of an 80s vibe. So we're excited to release those. Huge shout out to all of our sponsors. I don't know sometimes if we give them enough credit and love, especially on this program. Cycling Upgrades with Corby is our huge sponsor. So much that he does for the team through his thoughtfulness, his donations, his discounts, and everything that he does, that Corby does to make sure that the team runs smoothly. Grateful for all of our sponsors and thankful for everybody on the jersey who makes it possible for us to be a team. And we're going to have two of those sponsors coming up in an upcoming podcast. So we're going to interview Matt Dalton and Dean Walker, who are both obviously members of the team, but also sponsors, and their companies are on our jersey. So looking forward to interviewing them. All right, long introduction. Thanks for hanging on, and hopefully you enjoy Andy Welch. Thanks. All right, what up? Welcome to Me Duole Podcast, episode 88. Is that right? 88? If it's not, it doesn't matter. At this point, I should stop numbering them. It's like, it's kind of silly. Jake, how are you?
I'm doing good. Can I request to be on episode 100, please? That'd be great, because I was on episode 1, and then maybe I can get on to 100. How about that? I've
still got in the can the gigantic survey I did about saddle sores. You remember that survey?
Yes.
Should we save that for number 100?
Sounds appropriate.
That'd be great for episode 100, saddle sores.
Andy Welch, how are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Dude, where are you broadcasting from? Is this an office?
Yeah, background's kind of weird, isn't it? But
no, it's
yeah,
good.
Just my office here at work.
Not at home.
Not at home.
Okay, Jake, you're at home?
I'm at home today. Yeah, it's
lovely interior decorating. Beautiful.
Love it.
Love it. It is Friday, September 8th. Beautiful day outside. Did either of you ride this morning?
Not this morning. Right after this podcast, I've got a 15-mile trail run at Wasatch. I got to go pace a brother-in-law. So,
what? Did they start this morning, Wasatch 100?
Wasatch 100 started this morning.
Oh, no.
Is that Eric Storheim you're going to go pace or what?
Brother-in-law.
Okay.
Garrett.
Cool.
Yeah.
Dude. We're going to get into Andy's athletic prowess, but that's the kind of guy he is. Just go do a 15-mile run like it's no big deal. No, doesn't even matter. He hasn't
no training, no nothing.
Yeah, hasn't ran in months. He's just
gonna. Got the phone call last night. So.
Oh my gosh. Did you ride this morning?
No, Chip and Janie bailed on me this morning. So I was
what?
Up and at him. I had her taking my caffeine, so I just decided to sit inside and hang out with caffeine in my system. So
what do you mean they bailed? Just last minute didn't want to go?
Just texted me, 10 minutes before leave and said they're out.
Gosh.
So it's all good. Hey, I get it. I've been there. So,
get it. Bro, you got 3 towers in yesterday though.
Three Towers was great. It was a little bumpy, man. There was all that rain that's happened the last couple of weeks. Like, it is tough. It is not smooth.
The road's brutal. Yeah, the real steep part's gotten weird.
Yes, really weird. And like, I mean, the sand's kind of gone away, but God, there's so many big rocks and just loose gravel. It's crazy. So, but fun.
Shout out to Zach Pepe, who bought a gravel bike.
Let's go.
Okay, he's in the mix. He went and did Three Towers. I asked him how it went. He said went well. So yeah. And then tomorrow, Lotija. Dudes are racing.
Wait, it's Lotija tomorrow?
Yeah.
It's a big day.
No, I'm kidding.
No, big day. Excited. We got a lot of great riders towing the line there. So good luck to everybody. And how do you guys feel about not participating in Lotija tomorrow? Andy?
Yeah, maybe we might even get into this on the podcast a little bit, but I love Lotija. We've done it 4 times now. It's always something that every year I'm like, I'm gonna do, and then life does its thing, and I don't ever feel like I'm ready and trained for it. But I still have some desires to do a few more of them, I think. So I miss it when it's going on.
Yeah, it's like you're so excited in April to sign up, and then in August you're like, I don't want to do that, and then right about now you're like,
yeah,
that might be fun. I probably should do that. Right. Jake?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great race. I mean, I've done it 4 years as well, and taking the last couple of years off. And I mean, there's times, I miss it, Stu. Like, yeah, I'm excited in April, I should have signed up, and then August comes, you're like, golly, man, I don't know if I can do this, but I'm definitely having a little bit of FOMO. I think just it's fun to see all those guys that have trained all year, and excited to see the results tomorrow. So,
me too. Very good. Lotija. Very good. I love kind of spreading it out, maybe finding new stuff to do. It's kudos to guys that do that for 20 plus years. That is a big commitment to throw down that event. So
for sure.
Very good. Andy Welch is our guest today. Andy, we're very grateful to have you on. It's episode 88. I was just telling him we've kind of lagged a little bit producing content for the team. So here we are. We're jump starting back in. We've got Matt Dalton coming up, Jamison Rice. Who else did I say? Joel Zanger and Dean Walker. Yeah. So we've got a lot of great teammates coming up. So Andy, we're going to kick that off here with you. And we've got a lot of great notes ahead of us. So we ready?
Let's do it. Looking forward to it.
Your beautiful wife, she produced a short introduction to you. I'll read this. Pause at any moment if you'd like. Let me introduce Andy Welch. He grew up in Sandy, Utah, one of 8 children. How about that? There you go. He is unique in the fact that he is a quadruplet. Do you know? I don't know any other quadruplets, Andy. This is amazing. It's him and 3 sisters, all born at the same time. Very close with all his siblings, and they get together several times a month. Andy, maybe we should pause there. Are we going to dig into that a little bit, Andy?
We can if you want. I laugh at it oftentimes. I remember my wife was telling her grandma when we were first dating, "Hey, I'm dating this quad," and grandma's like, "Oh, that's so nice. That's so nice of you. You've always had a big heart." And I think she interpreted the fact that quad meaning quadriplegic, and so it took until the first meeting of grandma when I walked in, she realized that she misinterpreted what my wife was saying. But
so good,
dude, it was fun growing up. I've got 3 sisters that are all the same age, and it was fun. They all did different sports and different things. That there's a lot of friends and high school was interesting with all that. So a lot of fun with sharing a life of 3 sisters there for sure.
With the way you take such good care of everybody, Andy, I would assume you are the oldest in your family. Are you?
I have an older sister and an older brother.
Okay.
And then I came out first with the 3 of these. So I still try to remind the other 3 sisters who's older,
nice.
Even though if it's only 15 seconds or so.
Nice. All right. We'll talk about that a little later on. I'll continue on with this intro. Here we go. Andy works for a local land development company overseeing their horizontal development and managing projects and people. Over the last couple of years, he's built custom homes on the side and has also done several house renovations. He has an incredible eye for seeing the potential of any project, finds gratification in construction, and being able to see your hard work come to reality. I know a lot of, Andy, you've done some work for members of the team as well, right?
Yeah, a handful of them.
Very good. His free time is usually spent on adventures with his family, a thrill seeker, and a bit of an adrenaline junkie. I like that. He has been known to do gainers off a 75-foot cliff, paddleboard with grizzly bears. On the paddleboard, Andy? Is that? No, I'm just kidding.
That was just you'll keep going. Well, I'll tell you about that experience later.
Pull off all the tricks on a wakeboard like a 20-year-old would. Race motorcycles, running, mountain biking, road biking. He loves to travel and take the Sprinter van to see all the beautiful places in the world that the world has to offer. Andy's like the Energizer Bunny. He goes, and goes. He loves getting to know people and has a genuine talent for recognizing the value that every person has. You typically can't take him anywhere without him knowing someone and going out of his way to say hi. He's been known to become best friends. That's in quotations, Jessica. What does that mean? Best friends. With most people over one conversation. He spends his time serving others, and when he sees a need, he fills it. He hates wasting time and hates texting. That's funny.
That is true.
If you have a flat tire, call Andy. If you need to build something, call Andy. If you're having a bad day, call Andy. He's the guy that's always going to be there. His mottos in life: serve others, be happy, and let's go. Dude, what a great intro. Anything to add there, Jake?
No, it's so true. I mean, Jess is such a wonderful person, and there's no better guy than Andy out there. He's been my minister for a while in the church, and just so grateful for him. He's always willing to serve, and if I call him, he's always willing to come up. He's the guy that never says no. He's always a yes man, and it's a unique personality about him, and he just always wants to help, and it's so true. He wants to serve others first, be happy, and let's go. That's a complete motto for Mr. Welch.
What about first time you've ever met Andy? Do you remember? I remember mine. I will share here in a minute.
Oh, first time, dude. You put me on the spot here. First time I met Andy. I mean, he was my first actually introduction into the ward when we moved here. I remember showing up to the ward. I think it was him, and then I met Chipping right after. But yeah, dude. I mean, I think he was my first interaction on the bike too. He actually got me into the biking team for me Duole. So I don't know. He was just the first. I think what I remember is first contact when I moved in, and kind of been history from there. Meeting in the parking lot down by the ward. So
nice. Andy, first time I met you, although we didn't actually officially meet, 5 Canyons event. You got to remember this. It was raining freaking cats and dogs. Do you remember this?
Hangar 15.
And everybody's up at Hangar 15. You rolled up and we're all standing there. There was like 10 or 12 of us and everyone was kind of like, well, what do we do? I had never participated like in any, and you guys rode off to Little Cottonwood, dude. I just drove home. I just like went to my house. And then you started sending all these pictures, like you guys were out riding it, and I was like in bed, like I'm not riding in the rain. And you and Chip, I think Tech Kilgore, like Jim Moore, you guys were out doing 5 Canyons in the rain, and I think you guys ended up finishing, and I was like, no way. And then I asked who you were in the picture. You were one of the guys I didn't know, but I guess we didn't really meet. But that was the first interaction I had with you. Like, dude, what? Who were these guys that went and did this? Just ridiculous.
I remember riding our bike. I was riding up 39th to get to Hangar 15. I was just like, all right, let's go. We're really doing this. There was water in the shoes before we even started the ride. It was that bad.
Because I drove up to Hangar. I'm like, I'm not riding in this. It's the stupidest idea. So anyway,
that was a fun day. Well, those are kind words of my wife and of you guys as well. It's a lot of fun. We'll get into some of this, but my wife is amazing. She's gorgeous, and she's the better half of us for sure. So she's been my sidekick on all of these, as far as the motto goes of serving others and the Let's Go adventure vans. She tags along with me, and it makes life even better with her. So
nice, dude. Well, when I was searching some of the pictures that we'll post this to social media, whatever. Dude, I've got pictures that go back 11 years of us riding bikes. I don't know if that's the beginning, but it goes back a long way. Like me, you, Chip, Isaac Kuntz,
Oh yeah.
me and you at the top of Big Mountain in the snow.
April 1st.
Dude, you remember that? I want to share my screen. I don't know if sometimes the recordings don't pick up my screen, but you two, look at this. That was like day one at the top of, we rode through like a snow tunnel, Andy.
Dude, look at those Jerry's, man. Jeez.
Jerry's. Bro, that was
April
the
1st,
style.
2016.
Don't call it Jerry's, but dude, we were decked out right there. I mean, it was amazing. Stu, do you remember the best part of that ride? Do you remember the selfie stick? This was the day one we introduced the selfie
A
stick.
selfie stick. Yeah, I put like a GoPro on a selfie stick, dude.
Bro, not only that, we were descending down and we get towards the bottom, and you and I have the selfie stick out in front of us. We're towards the bottom. A guy is coming up the front, coming up on us. We almost ran straight into him because we were so busy looking at ourselves in a selfie stick while descending Big Mountain, dude. One of the best memories of all time,
so
for sure.
dumb.
Dude, you and your yellow socks and yellow shoes, Stu. Look at that.
You like that? Look at that. That's like Iron Lung, like one of the beginnings.
Is that Doug Brower?
Doug Brower, Andy Welch, Jameson Rice, some of Jameson's pharmacy buddies.
Yep.
This is us, East Canyon. Remember this?
Oh, this was good. This was
East
great.
Canyon race.
That was such a good day.
Dude, I've got so many. Look at these guys.
Look at
Andy. I literally have just that. Look at that Huntsman 140 we did together. Yep. We spent the night in Delta. You remember that? We drove to Delta, rode from Delta to Salt Lake.
Do you remember the winds that day?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Like 50-mile-an-hour side winds. I remember just getting to Utah Lake and we were about ready to call it quits, thinking we still had another 30 or 40 miles to go. That was a long day.
I guess the reason I show these pictures, a lot of memories, Andy. We've done a lot of loadages. We've done a lot of just, dude, look at you on your birthday, January 5th. So good.
So good. Look at that bike, dude. That thing
I know.
Legendary, bro.
Anyway. Really fun to go through all these old memories and see. We've done Cocopelli race together, Andy, Rockwell Relay. So anyway, hey, let's talk for a second about. Let's dive in. Maybe expand a little bit about your family, where you grew up, and tell everybody about what that was like, just your childhood.
Yeah, for sure. I grew up in Sandy, like you said, family of 10 with 8 kids. And the crazy thing about our 8 kids, because the quadruplets were all in the middle, from the oldest to the youngest, was really within about 9 years of each other. So it was a pretty packed house and a lot of kids, all within relatively the same age. So that just made for a ton of fun. My dad was a general contractor as I was growing up, still did construction. And so that was really a lot of my work was working side by side with dad and brothers through the construction industry, which led me a lot to where I'm at today. I ended up going to Jordan High School, kind of playing 3 sports there with football, baseball, and basketball. And really that was kind of the life. The diggers, So that was a lot of fun. And that was really kind of my life, even like growing up through Little League. It was football, baseball, basketball. And that's from 8 years old through 18. I never really did a whole lot of sports outside of that, right? And so it was just on repeat year after year. And mom and dad provided every opportunity they could for us to do whatever we wanted, and did that for all of our kids. Sisters did gymnastics competitively. Brothers played sports. And my little brother ended up becoming a professional snowboarder and does that still to this day. So mom and dad did a phenomenal job providing 8 kids with all of their needs and any opportunities to progress and try out any aspiration in life. So it's been a great deal to where we still get together now with the family every couple weeks, and the posterity now, all of them are married, and I think there's 31 grandkids associated with that. So most given time at mom and dad's house, there's 45 people running around and having a good time.
Dude, I have 2 kids. Jake, you have 4. Andy, you have 3.
Right.
Like, looking back, are you in awe of what your parents were able to provide and accomplish for you? Or I mean, what did you take from that? Having that, I mean, it's rare in my opinion to have a family that big.
Yeah, my dad did well financially as well, and but it took all of that um, to provide for 8 kids. I don't know how, frankly, how he did it. I think in today's society, it's a little bit different. I'm not trying to take anything away from mom and dad, right? But
Yeah.
8 kids was, we would come home from school and mom and dad would say, "Hey, change your clothes and go out and play and come back for dinner," right? Like, and
Yeah.
we would be out in the backyard in the field making tree huts and all sorts of other stuff. And it was a lot more of free range parenting than it is in today's society, right?
That's
And
a great
so,
word for it.
but it was, man, the coolest thing about my family to this day is um, their motto too is, "Hey, whatever you need, we'll take care of it. We'll do it." And I have a sister who crashed on a bike a few months ago and
That's right.
became paralyzed, and to have the family support system, and she's got an outstanding friend support system as well that's really helped her work through some of those challenges. So, I mean, it's the good thing is the history of what my parents have built has only created a foundation for our family moving forward
Mm.
throughout the rest of this life, knowing that we've got a support system that no matter what happens, we'll be there for each other.
Yeah. That's awesome, dude. Very good.
Great.
Jake,
Great.
any follow up there? Any questions?
No, I think I mean I just love his family. I mean, got a sweet Logan. I mean, he's kind of fun to see him kind of blossom over the years, kind of getting into running and lately and doing that. And then your younger girls, or your older girl and your younger girl. I mean, just sweethearts, right? And then also your wife, dude. There's no one better. So great family. And yeah, I was funny. We were in Lake Powell this past summer, and I met your sister. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but we kind of just coordinated and we were talking about you. And so it was fun to kind of meet the extended family. But yeah, no greater family than the Welches, and you just got some great kids, man. Absolutely love them. So
Oh, thanks. It takes a village to raise these kids, right? And you guys are definitely a part of that. So appreciate
for
your
sure.
examples.
Andy, let's talk about being an incredible athlete that you are, absolutely incredible, and then how you got into endurance sports, because I think a lot of guys have that moment where they're like, all right, this is what I'm going to do now because I can't power clean and like do military press anymore. Like, how did you transition into more of a running,
Yeah,
cycling background? Yeah, let's do it.
great question. The Yeah, up in 2010, St. George Ironman came to yeah, Ironman came to St. George. We were happy. We just happened. I know. I
Oh
think
my gosh,
we
dude.
all cringe about that
We
We've
all
all
done
done
all
it,
done.
one. Yeah. So, but this is the first time they did the full Ironman down, and I remember being down there and for during that weekend, not intentionally being down there because of that event, but just happened to be down there. And I remember throughout the day, I was like, "What is this event going on?" And anyways, around midnight, I ended up deciding I'm just going to go down to the finish line and watch these people come across the finish line. And these were not your average people, right? Coming across the finish line. And I left there with the most inspired, with just inspiration of like, man, if these guys, older individuals, maybe not your most fit individuals who spent 18 hours out there trying to grind through an Ironman, if they can do this, there's what is it about this? And so I was pretty inspired from that. My brother-in-law was down there with me, and he had recently picked up a road bike a year or so before. And so I don't know if you remember, Daybreak had a triathlon that they would do, a little sprint triathlon.
Mm-hmm.
So we left there Saturday thinking, all right, next weekend I'm showing up to do this Daybreak triathlon. I borrowed my brother's bike, and I think it was a Wednesday afternoon. I thought, well, we just went for a little bike ride to ride the course. I got 6 miles into that bike ride and I was nuked. And I was like, I was huffing and puffing so hard and thinking, oh man, we're going to do this. So that was my only training for this sprint triathlon. was a 6 mile bike ride. So Saturday shows up for this little sprint triathlon, and they've got a lake out there at daybreak, and it was in the lake. I show up in my board shorts and my goggles, and the gun goes off, and I'm so amped up. I got the butterflies, and I start attacking the swim. And by 100 meters in, I'm on my back, just floating, just trying to catch my
100
breath.
meters.
Dying.
Oh my gosh! So this was my introduction into triathlons. I ended up getting through it and got on the bike and finished the bike. And really, I think I'd kind of ran a little bit before doing, trying to do some stuff. But I think I ended up taking third place even after floating on my back. And so that was the spark. And so that led to, I just decided, hey, forget Olympic sized triathlons. We went straight from the daybreak to the St. George half Ironmans. And that's where it went to. And so ever since then, that's how I got into it. It was just a little inspiration from the St. George Ironman and trying it out from the daybreak triathlon.
Nice.
So you're saying anyone who needs to get into the triathlon scene, they just got to go float on their back down a river, right? Is that what you need to do?
That's all it is right there.
Jake, you've done it. You've done yeah.
Yeah, I actually did it with Welch. Me and Adam Merritt and Andy did it back in 2018, right? Andy, I think it was.
So.
But God, we started January 1. I think we, early that fall, we talked each other into doing it, and it was kind of my eye opening in the cycling triathlon world too. But trained with Andy, swam with him. I remember swimming at the Lions Club every morning and running and biking, man, it is brutal. It is tough. It's a tough race. So Devin, haven't done it again since. Just so there you go.
Jake,
it was tough.
Do you remember when we were training? The coldest ride we've ever done was when we thought, I think it was the conference weekend, we thought we would go right up Big Cottonwood.
Yes.
We got
never been more cold in my life.
Never been so cold. We descended down and got to Meal D, and I think we stopped and tried to put our hands in our shirt. I mean, it was the coldest ride we've ever done.
It was brutal. Absolutely brutal. So
the things we did was great.
Yep.
Hold on. I lost my outline here for a sec. Andy, very good. Let's talk for just a sec. Cycling, although you already heard at the beginning of the introduction, Andy's going to go run Wasatch 100. I mean, the dude is an athlete in every way, but maybe why cycling? Why the team? Why did this kind of stick?
Yeah, good question. The reason I do a lot of things in life is just because I want to bro down with good people. It was interesting. During the time I had actually worked with Intermountain Healthcare, and so I actually got with Intermountain Healthcare cycling team for a year or two. We never really did any organized rides, and I went down to one of their events they did in St. George, and great group. And after the 100-mile ride we did down there in St. George, they all got together and went off to the bar and other things, and it just wasn't my jam. And so we'll talk later maybe how I got into Me Duole, but I met Chip, and he got me into Me Duole, and ever since then I was like, these are similar, like-minded guys, similar drive and aspirations, and we get to do this together and have fun. What better group can you get? And Me Duole as a team just became an anchor to me for physical health, mental health, coaches and mentors, and still to this day, it's exactly an anchor to me as to what drives me in life. And so back to the point, Me Duole is my team because they inspire me. They're my mentors, like-minded dudes that we're all striving to be the best guys we can, and all while trying to balance the different things we juggle in life. So
nice, dude.
It's pretty awesome.
One thing special about Andy, I'm podcasts about Andy. I want you to get to know him better. Andy's literally 50 yards from my dad. You guys are like essentially neighbors. And my dad has this saying that you can you can fake saying that you'll be there. You can pretend all you want. But he's a real stickler when it comes, not stickler, I don't know if that's the right word for it, but you can't fake showing up. He says that all the time. You can't fake showing up. And getting an insight into Andy from my dad as a neighbor is really fun. This is one of the most genuine, service-oriented, loving men you'll ever meet. Just so much respect for Andy and who he is, the life you built, Andy. And I mean, like, and taking care of my old dad. I mean, it's fun that you're always there to help him when I can't. You and Jake, being in his ward and neighborhood, you guys take care of him so good. So
your dad's the man. He mentioned to me one time, you guys are friends with Garth Brooks, right? And he said, Garth once said that there's two types of people. There's those that you invite for barbecues, and then there's everybody else. And so he oftentimes
classic Gregor.
Right. So I consider me Duole as our barbecue friends. They're that
That's
type
fun.
of people. So
It's only funny too, because when you don't get invited to Gregor's barbecue, then you know where you are in that camp.
exactly.
You're not a barbecue guy. All right, cool. Let's talk about currently riding, favorite ride. Let's do those two. Yeah.
Yeah. Currently riding the Ventimenace 1. Love that bike. It's a great bike. And again, coming from a 10-year-old Specialized Venge, love that bike too. That thing was a bullet. But yeah, so for the last couple of years, I've been on the Ventimenace 1. Hope to in the near future. Maybe again, I love everybody's riding the SL7s or 8s, and maybe one day we jump into that and hope for that here soon. So, but love both those bikes. Favorite local ride, I think Jake, this will bring back a memory that we have, but Mill Creek's got a soft place in my heart. I love Mill Creek. I love the small road feel. I love the tunnel of trees after you get past the gate. I love the multiple faults flats that you think, oh, I'm so close, and then just there at the end, it just pitches back and back, and it's just, I just love that ride. It's gorgeous and everything. And then I honestly think it's one of my favorite descents down any mountain. So brings me to a memory that Jake and I had descending down that one time, and I think we were chasing each other, and I think we did not hold anything back on that descent. You remember this, Jake?
Oh,
we didn't hold anything back, Andy. Zero. I mean, I actually, looking back, I regret like going how hard we went.
100%. It was one of those moments that, like, did we really just do this? We got done with that thing, and we apexed every corner. We pedaled every single stroke. We got done with that. Just to put the stats together, you were 5th, I was 6th on the fastest descending of the entire thing. There was 57 people that had 5,700 people recorded on Strava at the time that had descended that, and Jake was sitting 5th.
And the dudes in front of you are guys that forgot to turn their Strava off from mountain biking. They were in their cars.
Yes.
Oh man, that was one of those moments we look back and be like, that was fun, but let's not do that again, right? But I love that descent.
I remember you coming around that blind bend. Remember that right-hand turn, and like just towing the yellow line on the opposite side of the traffic, man. We just came so close to some of those turns. It was a day, to remember for sure, right?
We left no room for error on that one for sure. A lot of fun.
That's fun. Favorite place to travel? Yeah, let's do that, because you just talked a lot about you guys traveling. I mean, you've been in some awesome places the last couple of years.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I've felt this obligation to my kids to show them just the world a little bit, which kind of inspired us to go buy a Sprinter van and build out for a camper van and some other things. But I think too, my personality is I'm kind of a one and done guy in a lot of ways, and maybe not necessarily one and done, but I just like to see new things. And so, so my favorite place to travel, we've done Hawaii and we've done a lot of other things, and that's been great. But once I've kind of done something, I'm more of an adventure. Let's go put together an adventure. In fact, just this last weekend, we went and paddleboarded the Grand Canyon and chartered a boat for 10, 12 miles up the Grand Canyon and paddleboarded down with the kids and had some fun that way. So rather than maybe my favorite place to travel, I think that my type of traveling I like to do currently with my kids is just a lot of new adventures. So over the last couple of years, we just went up to Canada and did a little 10-day trip up to Canada, up to Banff and Jasper and Glacier National Park. We've done the Oregon coasts and the California coast and Yellowstone and Jackson and stuff. So I think right now in my life, that's where I'm at with my kiddos, is just to provide them opportunities to see new things. You mentioned about in Jess's introduction, she talked about paddleboarding with grizzly bears and other things. And that's no joke. We were up in Canada just a month ago, and as we were there, we were out paddleboarding and we were trying to get across the lake to go jump off a little cliff that we had done earlier, and the winds had kind of kicked up, and so we said, hey, let's kind of call it and turn back around. Well, as we turned back around, right behind us was a grizzly bear out in the middle of this lake.
Dang.
And it was a big old bear. So we paddleboarded around it, took a few pictures and videos of it, and realized we probably better keep on moving on. So we called it a day. But that trip was a lot of fun. We saw grizzly bears, black bears, and all sorts of other stuff. So so we got some other things on the calendar with Yosemite and other places that we haven't quite seen. So that's kind of where that's kind of our traveling style. It's been a lot of fun.
That's cool. Yeah, that Sprinter van's rad, dude. And you built that sucker.
Freaking sweet.
You know, I grew up doing construction, like I said, and I really wanted to try it out because I wanted to just test, maybe not my limits, but just kind of try it. I've seen it was kind of the fad going on. I said, oh, this will be a fun project. Let's build out this Sprinter van. Spent a bunch of time studying it out and how to design it. Anyways, I got into it, and man, it became something a lot more than I thought I was getting into. It went from a passion to a project there towards the end, and we got it across the finish line, and it's been a great thing for our family for sure.
That's cool. I love this question. Well, at least I'm excited to hear your answer. Traveling back in time, and you're going to talk to young Andy or maybe 16-year-old Andy. If you've got 10 minutes with him, what are you going to tell him?
Yeah, I've thought a lot about this one. And I oftentimes think about my 14-year-old son and the conversations I've had with him. I remember when I was 16 years old, bottom of the ninth inning, high school, baseball, and bases, a couple guys on the base, and I was so stinking scared. And I struck out. I ended up losing the game. If I would have just got a hit, it would have been a different outcome. And that oftentimes, that experience, to me, I reflect on that, because I think if I would have walked up to the plate with confidence, it would have been a different outcome. But I just didn't have that confidence in life at that age. And the older I've gotten, I think I've gotten a little more confidence because I think of experiences that we've often gone through. And I keep thinking about my kids. If there's one thing I could instill into them, is to just have confidence. You can do anything in the world. You can do anything you want to do. Just walk up to the plate and knock it out of the park. Have the confidence to do it, and try new things. And by doing so, I think that you'll realize. I think all too often we get concerned at 16 years old about what other people think about us, and we're concerned about our image. We're concerned about our brain. And if I could just say, forget about all that. Have humble confidence is what I would call it. Be humble about it, but be confident. That's the advice that I would give. How to do that is a different conversation. But humble confidence.
I love it. Very cool.
Great. Awesome.
Before we move on to your racing, riding, training kind of thing, I think you've got some. Just maybe explore this a little bit more about the biggest influence in your life. I think it'd be cool to hear a little bit more about your dad.
Yeah, I I know everybody might often say, "Oh, my dad's my my greatest influence," and it might be cliche, but my dad, for two reasons, I noted my dad. My dad lives a pretty simple. He has a simple personality and a simple life. And at first, I was growing up. I'm always like, "Oh, Dad, we had boats and we had all that other stuff," but he's always had a pretty quote unquote eternal perspective about life. Things never really got to him. Things never bothered him. And so I've always been, the older I get, the more I recognize that how inspiring that is of just, he's always had his direction in life and never deviated from that. Materials and hiccups, and he's had injuries and shattered his feet, been in wheelchairs and all that. And none of that deviated from his eternal perspective of life, of just being a good person and serving others, irregardless of whatever the scenario is. So I've always admired my dad for that. And then the second thing is, and I'm understanding this portion of it the older I get, as I have kids. He he let us just kind of live life, and he would counsel us and direct us and make sure that we weren't, making dumb decisions. But um, he just led by example and then let us follow in his footsteps. And I've always kind of thought, well, I wish my dad would have provided more counsel here and advice there. And maybe there's some times that may or may not have been true. But now that I've got a 14-year-old, sometimes I feel like I just gotta get out of the way and let him, and not get in his way. And I think that that's what my dad was doing. The more I look back at my childhood, so I admire my dad for a lot of reasons, but those are two things. Is you always knew that he was there. He led by example, and his example was a pretty eternal perspective that was what guided him. So it was really cool.
Nice, dude.
Awesome.
Jake, any question? Any follow up there?
Um, I've never met your dad, but it sounds like he's a pretty amazing man. I love you shared in here. You said learn by doing, right? And I think you're the epitome of that, Andy. I think you do everything that way, right? You learn by your doing, and I think you've taught me that just from moving in the neighborhood, learning new things and being a good person in life, right? And even in the gospel too, right? That eternal perspective of things, dude, is a lot. Like, I mean, it's a big deal, and especially when you got kids and dealing with the battles of life, right? I think all those things, encompass who you've been, and I've been a mentor of mine. But I love that. Something I'm going to take away from this today is learn by doing. I'm going to teach my kids that and kind of impress that on them. So thank you.
Yeah.
I'll give you I put that in there, and just a quick example of that. I remember I went out and bought a Honda Accord for $200. Went down to the auto paint shop and bought $400 worth of paint.
What?
I showed up in our backyard on the concrete, and I sprayed automotive paint onto this new car. And
No.
my dad's just sitting in the background, just watching me put a new
No.
put a new paint job on a $200 Honda with paint that was twice the value of what the car was worth.
And he didn't say anything to you?
Didn't say anything to me, dude. He was just letting me learn by doing. Then the funny thing is the paint job turned out sweet. I was pretty stoked about the way this thing turned out. It was this gold, like a silver flake, silver car.
Wow.
So then about 3 hours later, I thought, dude, what better way to really make this thing shine than to put some wax and buff this thing out, right?
No.
Dude, the paint hasn't even cured. Bro, as a 16-year-old kid, I pull out the buffer and I start buffing this paint job, and all it's doing is just swirling this new paint that hasn't even set yet. And my dad is just sitting in the background, just laughing.
Just giving you a thumbs up. You're doing great, kid.
Doing great, bud. Just keep up the good work, So, dude, that's just a quick example of one of many where my dad's just letting me learn by doing. So
That's so good, man. That is so good.
We strapped his old parachute onto our back on a windy day in the backyard and got drugged through the backyard. I mean, it was just example after example of just having a good time. Just learn by doing.
Fun. That's
awesome.
good. We've already hit a couple of these, Andy, but you have a few more most memorable experiences or stories. I got to hear about this tryout. What is this? Duole tryout.
Oh man, I remember one Sunday. So this was right after that triathlon that I mentioned earlier, and Chip, I thought I was kind of a big deal. I'd ride a few days a week and kind of get into cycling and move into the neighborhood. And I meet with Chip, and Chip's like, "Yeah, I like to do some cycling." So I'm talking to him one Sunday, and we had a ward camp out. So that ward camp out was up at Thousand Acre Ranch up there, and so we thought, "Hey, well,
I remember this.
let's go ahead. Let's go ride home from from this camp out." So I had no clue what I was getting into. So Oakley to home, right?
Right.
And Chip and I just start going down, get up down Weber Canyon. We get up Browns Canyon. I'm like, oh my goodness, like this is the real deal. We get into Park City, and all of a sudden we get to Marzac, and I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? Like, and Chip, Chip, smile, shirt unzipped, 6-pack just flaring out like classic Chip, and he just kept saying, "Bro, just one pedal at a time, bud. Just keep on going.
Just keep going. Just keep going."
I've never ridden. I don't think I've ridden Emmy at this point in time or anything else. And Chip thought that I could just go handle Marzac, Guardsman. I paperboyed from the very bottom to the very top of that entire climb with Marzac and Guardsman. We got to Big Mountain, and anyways, made it, or we got to the top of Big Cottonwood and descended down. And bro, that was one of the most stressful, miserable days of my life. But that was the tryout, and it was the next day that Chip's like, "Sweet, let's go ride together." And that was my tryout to. I officially made the team after making it up that ride.
That is so good, dude.
That was
one great story.
Of another.
Not a great story.
Andy and I did Rockwell Relay. We talked about that once before. Dude, just so fun. I think it was the first. I mean, it was one of the first times we ever did it. We were just like in that. Were we in the Sprinter van or were we in Chip's Land Cruiser? I don't remember what we were in.
We were in a
Sprinter.
We were in a Sprinter.
Yeah.
And do you remember? Barker came bombing down Boulder Mountain.
Mm-hmm.
We were with the race group. We came into that race with the intention to really put in an effort.
Yeah.
See what we could do. We got into midnight, and we were with the race group. There was 5 or 6 of us that were there.
That's right.
Barker came down the Boulder and with a flat tire with like a quarter mile. And so we kind of, the race group came in, and they had left, and I'm sitting there waiting. And I go to pull my bike off the rack, and it had 2 tires flat, if you remember this. So my bike was out of commission. Barker came in with having fixed his bike, and the race group was probably maybe a quarter mile ahead of us.
I remember this. And we drove. Yeah.
So I did not want to lose this for us. So I just took Barker's bike, jumped on, and kept going, right? And the first of my ride was a Hog's Back.
Uh-huh.
And so it was like a 10-minute ride out, and then we start descending Hog's Back, and I'm burning every match I could to catch this race group. And within about 5 minutes, Barker's light goes out because he had just spent 3 hours riding.
That's
so I'm
right.
riding in the dark. I'm descending 50 miles an hour down Hog's Back, doing everything I can.
At like 1 a.m.
1 in the morning. And I burnt every single match. You guys ended up falling asleep, and Joni and Kristen pulled up next to me, and I literally almost had tears in my eyes. I just let the whole team down. Like, guys, I'm so sorry. I can't catch these guys. And we ended up rolling in throughout the rest of the day and stuff. But I felt I let the team down.
Remember too, you were like, you didn't put on any gloves. You didn't put on any jet. And when we finally caught up to you, you were like ice. You were like frozen.
Oh, and Kristen and Joni just hand me out some gear, and I regroup, and just, dude, that was an awesome race, and one I'll always remember for sure.
So funny, dude. One of my most memorable. You guys we haven't even talked about it, but one of my most memorable aspects, I'll share the picture. In 2020, Jake supported me, and we've talked about that. Well, when it comes time to like find someone to support your wife at Lotaja, it's like, well, who are we going to ask? Like, I'm not, dude, Andy was who he asked. Andy stepped up and literally took care of Kristen the entire day while I was racing. Andy, you were like her support, took care of her. It was so cool. My God, you guys have never felt like that's for us to trust. I know that sounds so silly, but dude, the person supporting you at Lotaja carries quite a bit of a burden of trust when it comes to like taking care of you throughout the day, especially for like a podium. Kristen was like going to win. So pretty cool that you would do that, Andy. It's a great memory for me that you'd take care of Kristen all day. So anyway, good picture there.
That's an awesome picture. You guys know when sometimes there's moments that just anchor that friendship.
Yep.
And that's one of those moments for Kristen and I where I now know I can show up on the bike and Kristen and I just have this bond because of that experience. And so that cool. Solidified our friendship in a way that made it amazing. So appreciate that.
No, appreciate you taking care of my wife, Andy. Well done.
Yeah, awesome.
Very cool. Let's see. You've got some great, interesting stuff here for coaches and mentors. Guys, I don't know Dr. Scott Craven. You want to talk about that for a sec?
Yeah, Dr. Craven was a guy who I ended up meeting, not by coincidence. A previous life with Intermountain Healthcare caused me to be on a flight where I sat next to Dr. Craven, and 6 months later I was working for him. He's a dentist and owns a handful of dental clinics, and he hired me on to go help him manage and facilitate that from an operations standpoint. But it's very similar to my dad. He's one of those guys who just has, even though he's got life at his fingertips, he's always got just, again, an eternal perspective. He just does things for the right reason. He's the same guy today, no matter what hat he wears, whether he's your friend, your boss, your church leader or whatever. He's the same guy. And I think that there's very few people in life that I know who, no matter what hat they're wearing, you know what you're getting with that, right? And their values and stuff never change. So I've always considered him as a coach to me, and still oftentimes chat with him as I go throughout business and everything else. So good dude.
Nice. You say one of your heroes is your little brother. Maybe talk about that relationship for a minute.
Yeah, my little bro is he's always been the baby of the family. He's 5 years younger than me. He's had some ups and downs in life, but and growing up when I was 19, 20, 21, at 15, 16 years old, he was in all of your snowboarder magazines. He had all the sponsors. He was wearing the nicest watches, the latest DC shoes, Smith glasses, all this stuff. And I always looked up to him because no matter all of the accolades that he got and the influence he made around the world, none of that really mattered to him. He's been one of those guys who, no matter what the situation is, he's got the most charitable personality and most Christ-like love, and he's selfless to beyond belief. And so, and you even notice that, in fact, a lot of his magazine articles was always like, the reason Jake made it and as big as he did was because of those attributes. He would oftentimes give up the end shot or the jump or other things for other people to have, and sacrifice maybe his interests and personal desires throughout his snowboard career. And so that's never changed with him. And he's gone through some things, and as throughout that entire ups and downs of fame and life, he's always been probably one of the most charitable guys I know. So cool. Always look up to him for who he is and how he's been able to just keep that attribute about him.
Nice.
That's great.
Jake, any follow up there? Any questions?
No follow-ups on that. I mean, how's your relationship with Jake and like Logan and your kiddos?
Yeah, we, uh, you know that I mentioned this earlier. It takes a village to raise these little kiddos, and the challenge is just to
Sure.
kind of get out of the way. And so, particularly, Jake actually came to live with us for a year ago for a few months,
Yep.
and I did that intentionally to kind of have him come in and be an example to my kids. And they look up to Jake as their hero as well. And so Uncle Jake is their hero in many aspects of it. And so they due to those same reasons that I mentioned. So when we get together every week at Mom's or so, it's first person they go to is Uncle Jake to give a hug to, and they oftentimes will FaceTime him, ask him for advice or how to do this and how to do that. And,
Great.
I love and appreciate that because he's become that hero to them as well.
Cool.
I love that. That's great.
Hey, just like let's just a couple more questions, Andy. We'll wrap up. I love this part where you talked about what's a perfect day look like for you. The question was asked up above. I think it says, what would you do on your birthday, or what is, Buck? And it's fun to see what you would put for perfect day on the bike. But what would you? That's the Sean Montmany question. Is it's your birthday? Cost is no option. What are you going to do that day? And it's good. Andy wrote, honestly, I'm going to hang with my wife, go on a mountain bike ride, dinner, and a movie. I think that's a lot of guys' responses. Like, I don't know if there's very many other things when it comes to that, but I am intrigued by what does a perfect day on the bike look like for you? That's a cool thing to hear. What do you think?
Yeah, there's two things. It's everything that we've mentioned. It's being with your buddies. It's having meaningful conversations. It's suffering beyond belief. It's because all of that just solidifies our friendships and the value of what we do together. It could be, if you remember, Stu, a couple things. There's actually one ride that we've done a couple times. One time, one of my first rides was we did the Alpine Loop, right? And so we start from here, we go a big cottonwood around, and we find ourselves on the backside. One of the first times we did that, I got dropped on the backside of the loop, and Paul Watson, if everybody knows, that dude's the hammer. That dude can hammer, and he just slowly meanders back, sits by my side, and drags me up to the top of the Alpine Loop. Because of that, Paul Watson and I we were neighbors and stuff. I remember another time on that same exact ride, we were prepping for Lotoja. It was the second week of August, and me, you, and Barker make that turn. And you and Barker went so ham from the moment we came out of Provo Canyon to the shed there, or what's the Aspen Grove. And I remember going deeper than I've ever gone before just to hang. But to me, that's the perfect day on a bike. It's those moments when I get done and say, I'll never forget today, because that bond between who I rode with that day just became deeper because we suffered, we had meaningful conversations. So to me, that's what a perfect day on the bike looks like.
Cool. I think that same day, Andy, that we went up Alpine Loop was the same day that then Barker and I crashed at the bottom.
It was. Oh man!
So it was almost perfect. Minus the trip to the hospital. Very good.
Right.
Very cool. For the last 5 or 6 episodes, we have asked the guests to do a little tribute to Creighton Ryder. If you went to Creighton Ryder's funeral, he had this really cool list of Creighton's rules. And we've asked our last few guests to share maybe some of Andy's rules, 5 or 6 things that he lives by or he would want to share as takeaways for everybody listening. You want to share some of those, Andy?
Yeah, there's one that I'll say this. Over the last 3 or 4 years, my cycling and my fitness in cycling has maybe not been up to par where I'd like it to be, right? And the reason is because of all the different hats that we wear, or all the different balls that we juggle, and how to balance that. And so one of the as I've reflected on that over the last few years, one of the things that I've learned is that there's no such thing as straight lines in life. And what I mean by that is oftentimes we think point A to point B, I know how to get there. Here's my goals. And then all we got to do is go execute that. And though I think that forethought needs to be in that, when I do that, I find that life throws curveballs. Priorities become different. Other things come up in life. And I've learned that, and when I've thought about that, it's actually been hard for me mentally to be like, I know I want to be like Uncle Rico, who says, "Hey, put me back in, back in '82, I could throw a football over the mountain." I know that back in the day, my cycling was probably in a little bit better fit and form, and I still want to do that. But life has not been a straight line for me, and as a result, I've had to just kind of juggle around that. And so I've become okay with saying that there's no such thing in straight line as a straight line in life, and helping me understand how to manage that. So my thought is understand that and be okay with it. And so that's my first thought.
Nice. I love that.
One of my other thoughts that I love is I love what Me Duole has done with the yellow jersey recognition. I think and every individual who wears the yellow jersey on our team exemplifies what that means and fully deserves it. And so I commend all those that have that. And so I put in here that one of the things that is I've thought about the yellow jersey within Me Duole. I hope that I can wear the yellow jersey of life a little bit. And I hope what I mean by that is I hope that I can exemplify those attributes that we would call the attributes of life, the service of others, any what inspires people to be better. I hope that people look at me and look at us as a Me Duole team, that we're wearing that yellow jersey of life, just not on the bike, but also off the bike is what I'm saying. So I hope the yellow jersey of life I hope I'm wearing that throughout my life. So, and the cool thing about Me Duole is every one of us, I honestly could say, whether we're wearing it as the jersey or whether we're on the bike or where, I honestly believe that our team, every one of us wears that yellow jersey of life. They're just that type of people that is attracted to Me Duole and makes up our team of Me Duole. So I commend everybody on our team for that.
Nice.
Well said, man.
Great thoughts. That's a
great thought.
Great perspective. Yeah, Andy, nice.
So I'll share one or two others, and you can tell me to be done. And the other thought is all too often I think we worry about, I think experiences equals life lessons and wisdom, irregardless of what those experiences are like. I think all too often we live within our bubble and we're afraid to get outside of our comfort zone because we're afraid of the end result. We're afraid of, pushing ourselves beyond our comfort zone. And this is one that I try to teach my kids, is just to say, throw yourself at anything and everything and try to put yourself in experiences, because I think experiences provide wisdom that me lecturing you or me providing advice to you just doesn't get. And I've experienced that in my life. The more that I go through business, the more I go through school, the more I go through church or whatever it is, all of those things, the greatest things that stick with me are the things that really I derive from the experiences of life. And those experiences lead me to my last one, where sometimes those experiences are not the end result that you want, but know this, that quote unquote, everything's going to be okay, irregardless of, even if, I'm a firm believer that if you work hard, do the right thing, put yourself out there, I truly believe that everything's going to be okay. I go back to, many of us in life may have lost jobs. We may have been in difficult situations. I got a sister who recently crashed, as I mentioned earlier, and became paralyzed. We've all got close people, either close people next to us that have gone through difficult things, or we personally have gone through difficult things. And maybe those aren't the end results of those difficult things aren't necessarily what we thought our life would be. But I think when we get through it, the bottom line is everything's going to be okay. I'm a big believer in that. So
Nice.
those are
awesome.
probably the last few things that I'd wrap up that are part of the things that drive me, make up some of my rules of life.
I love that. I'm gonna share one more picture as I wrap up. I don't know if Jake wants to wrap up. This is 2017 Loaded Joe. Okay. I was in the lead group. You've heard this story before, and I got a flat. Sean Yeager gave me his tire. And in the meantime, Andy, I don't know if you caught me or if you waited for me, but Andy saw me with a flat. And so we rode the final, maybe 4 or 5 miles together. I hope I'm telling the story right. So we're coming up to the finish line, and I hadn't even thought about it. And you can see from the picture, I hope if you're not watching the video, I'll describe it to you, but we're literally 5 yards from the finish line. And Andy puts his hand on my back. And here's the picture. In the final second, as we go across the finish line, Andy pushed me in front of him I think we took 6th and 7th on the day at Loaded Joe, which I didn't know where we were position wise. But A, it caught me off guard. B, what an incredible story. And then look at us laughing, like Andy's smiling. I'm like, you idiot, pushing across in front of you. It hadn't even crossed my mind what we were going to do. Maybe we'd cross at the same time. But it was one of those moments where I was like, this was such a big deal for our team. At the time, I was kind of immature about it, but it was I look back and I'm like, I hope that if I'm ever facing that situation, that would be my response. It was really fun, really cool. As you just kind of, it wasn't even a big push. You just kind of it was enough that I was like, I barely crossed in front of you. Anyway, really cool, Andy. I think that just tells a lot about who you are and what a good guy you are. So anyway,
thanks,
love you,
dude. Love you guys. That day was a special day, and I ended up cramping at mile 185, came up on you right behind that. We were in the race group, and anyways, ended up 6th and 7th. But
yeah,
dude, all of these things we've talked about just goes back to this, that you guys are mentors to me in my life, and appreciate for who you guys are, what this team represents, and love this team and love you guys for sure. So hope you guys know that.
Jake, any final words?
No, it's what a great podcast episode this was. And, I have one last follow-up question, and this is what I like to usually ask people. And Andy, you're one of the kind of the OGs essentially of the team, and been doing this for a long, long time. And so, over the last couple of years, we've had a lot of younger kids or younger generation kind of join the team. And so kind of get your thoughts of what would you tell these young, new members of the team? How do they dive in? How should they approach the team? What should they do to get out what you put in? I mean, what's some advice that you would leave them to this newer generation that's starting to become a part of the team?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jake. And I think that's a loaded question too, but I'll give one or two things. And the first one would be exactly what you said. You get out of it what you put into it, right? And so whatever you want, then whatever you want out of it, there's a group of us that are all here of all different abilities, experiences. And if you want to be a racer, guess what? There's some dudes on this team that can race.
Absolutely.
Got a couple of them on this podcast. If you want adventures and dirt or whatever it is, I would just say, find out what you want and be comfortable with it. And then just go find those guys that, just go become it. Just do what you want to do. So and then the second part is we are all supportive. We're all I apologize. I'm trying to kind of cut me off guard. We are all dads just trying to do the best we can.
Absolutely.
So don't overthink it. Right. And what I mean by that is, and I mentioned this on the last thing is Stu, you taught me this. We would get so amped up about rides. We would get there for races and we would be we wouldn't sleep the night before. And you just kept saying, hey, Andy, we're just going for a ride, bro.
Just a ride, man. It's just a Saturday ride.
Just a Saturday ride, right? The Iron Lung, 140 miles. We're just going for a ride. Loaded Jet, we're just going for a ride.
A little 9-hour ride.
and my thought to that is that is applicable to our cycling. That's applicable to our life. Dude, don't overthink things. Let's just go for a ride, whatever that is, So that would be a few things that I would share with the others is don't overthink it all. Just go have some fun. Just go for a ride and get out of it what you want to get out of it.
Nice, dude. I
Great.
love that.
It's perfect.
Thanks, gentlemen. Great episode. Thankful for both of you. You guys are awesome.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate the time.
Okay.
Love you, Andy. Love you, Stu.
Love you too.
It's great.
See you guys. Cheers.